Welcome to Lead Today with me, Kalina. Let's talk leadership. This episode would not be possible without Anchor. It's free and the easiest way to make a podcast. They're creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome to the Lead Today show. I'm always looking for people that are leading by example in their daily lives, and we're lucky to have Dr. Raymond Nichols with us today, who's here to connect the disconnected, disempowered, and the suffering back to their authentic power and expression. He helps people function better, heal better, and adapt to life better by ensuring the brain-body connection is functioning optimally. He does this with his clinic Align Life Chiropractic in Greenville, South Carolina, along with his beautiful wife, Dr. Mariah Schaefer. They have 3 amazing kids that are 11, 3, and 5 months old. And he's served on many leadership boards in the past, with his clinic just awarded the fastest growing clinic out of 40 clinics. We're so lucky to have Dr. Nichols here today to chat with us about health, healing, fasting, and beyond. Please join me in welcoming him to the show. Start recording I should start the recording so that I don't miss any of these gems, because you're already like, that was a great point to already share. So you mentioned that you've done fasts, like water only fasts, or?
Yeah. So I've done water only fast. For me, it was more so of I think it's like I look at this suit that we wear, right? I look at this thing as a suit, and this suit needs to, it's like a vessel that needs to just kind of like cleanse itself, right? The body does always detox anytime we take a breath, anytime we poop, anything that's going outside, that's a detox for the body. But I also think that we have gotten to this place of where we create this just toxicity of just too much, where the body can't get rid of it, right? For instance, a prime example of that is gout. That's a prime example of like how something that create gout is we consume a lot of wines, consume a lot of breads, cheese, things like that, and have these things called purines in it, and then the body can't get rid of the purine, essentially. So what it does is it turns it to uric acid and it stores it in joints. And so when it stores it in joints, these uric acid turns to crystals. And then if you can imagine you have crystals in your joints, then that can create inflammation, right? And that can create, and that's what most people say, oh, my big toe hurts. Typically it happens in the big toe first, but that's just like a prime example of the overload of toxicity. So I think fasting is a great way to just reset physically and mentally. And I think I did it more for a mental and spiritual aspect. It was the most I have like when I talk about clarity and being clear, like, and I was able to really like be clear and have like that clarity. And also I was able to like the intuition. All right. We talk about intuition.
Yes.
And like listening to your gut.
I've been feeling it. It's so, I thought it was, honestly, I thought I was hallucinating. I'm like, I thought I was hallucinating. I'm telling you, it's so not on point. It's so like on point. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is kind of scary, because I was like, man, like, how do I explain this to someone and they've never experienced this before? And I'm like, wow, like, my intuition is spot on. Like, I'm telling you, anything that I feel, like, I'm like, whoa, like it was kind of scary at first.
Well, me too. I was even watching a movie. It's called Friends with Money. It's with Jennifer Aniston. Like super, I don't know. I didn't think it was going to be anything meaningful. And I was having all these like, whoa, like I was just, it was like I was high, but I mean, I don't know. Like it felt like I was high on something, but I've never gone that long without food, which is such an interesting thing societally as well. It's like this idea of that we like, these snacks every 2 hours or something. And it's like, I don't think we need that. Like, at least I don't feel good with that at all. Like I feel that feeling that you said, that overburdened kind of feeling, like my body can't move all that out, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, if you think about it, if we're constantly eating, then a lot of our energy has to go to the digestive system to be able to break our food down, to be able to assimilate it, to be able to put things where it needs to be. But if we're always eating, then our energy is going towards digesting food and not towards maybe mentally or just in different aspects, right? So we have energy, but the energy is being just diverted to the stomach. That's why I tell my patients all the time, like if you're sick or if your body's experiencing, I like just say like your body's experiencing health, and not that you're sick. Um, but you're not going to have a good appetite because your body is trying to get rid of something and it needs to use that energy to get rid of that thing. So if you continue to cram food down your mouth, then it's going to be using that energy to digest food and not get rid of what it needs to get rid of.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I went through the weirdest thing with the mold situation where I was like insatiably hungry. Like I was so hungry. It didn't matter if I just ate. I was like
Yeah.
so hungry being in that environment. So that's
Wow.
actually one of the things that really set me off, where I was like, this is not a craving or like this was like, I felt like something was like in me. It was really, uh, very unique sensation, which is why I looked for some answers, because I've never experienced that kind of feeling before. But what you're saying also makes a lot of sense for any kind of dis-ease or lack of health,
Yeah.
or like I think your body can work through it. But what do you recommend in terms of fasting? I mean, I want to get into like the work you do every day. I know like you're fasting,
You got
but what do you do in terms of fasting? What's like your go-to? Because I found my mental clarity kind of peaked on like day like 24 to 48 hours. I was kind of like on point, and then 24 hours hit, and when I was sleeping that second night, I was like getting these hot sweats and stuff, and then I kind of went like, I felt really tired and went kind of downhill. So
Yes.
what do you find in terms of an optimal, like, should I be doing this every week? Should I be doing this every month? What's the deal with fasting?
Yes, I think it depends. Because at one point I was doing it like more so on a quarter basis, like just 4 times a year. And I did a 3 day first, but I also tried a 5 day fast. And the 5 day fast actually kicked my ass. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Oh
uh,
yeah, for sure. I believe it.
yeah, I literally had no energy. It was really bad. Like it really was. I think the reason why is just I feel like I didn't have the right mindset going into it. And I think if you don't have a right mindset going to a fast, then it's not going to be the greatest experience. Not saying it's going to be easy, because it's not easy, but it's not going to be the greatest experience. And I think I experienced that. So I think that 3 day is like perfect for me. But before I go into a fast, I make sure that I at least started doing like an intermittent fasting, where it's doing like a give myself 8 hours to eat, or 6 hours. But that way I can kind of prime my body and just kind of get ready, like, okay, we're about to go into this water fast, right? So we're going to just skip breakfast, right? And so do that for about a month, and then we can hop right into the water fast right after, because now you're priming yourself and like you're getting ready to go into it. Because if not, it's going to hit you like a bag of bricks, like literally, like that. Again, that 24 hours is going to hit you, and when you go into ketosis, you're gonna feel like tired, like just that transition, like it's literally transition from carbs to utilizing the fat storage in your body. That transition is brutal, and it doesn't feel good. It really doesn't.
Nope. I
Yeah,
am living it.
yeah. But I think on the other side of that, and that's like it's very ironic, but on the other side of things that are a little bit uncomfortable is where you get the mental clarity, is where you get the connectedness, you get the intuition, you get these drop-ins that just you never would have noticed if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for your vessel being as clear as possible to allow these drop-ins to happen. So I think that's the beauty of it on the other side of it. And so when I did the water fast, I actually did some Himalayan salt, because I wanted to make sure I had my electrolytes. So I did that into my water, but that was all I did for the water fast. I did work out a little bit. It wasn't like a strenuous workout, but I did do a few workouts, and I actually I don't know, it was weird. Like I felt stronger. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like it was weird. Like I felt really strong. Like seriously, it's super weird.
Yeah, no, to me it makes complete sense. I felt similarly. I'm telling you, there was this kind of window of time, and then the energy kind of went up and down, but there were these kind of windows where I just felt unstoppable. Like I'm telling you, day 2, kind of the whole day, I was like, this is fantastic. I feel so clear. I feel so good. I'm not, I don't know. I was even more conscious, like aware of everything kind of going on, like the brain fog or any kind of feeling of the clarity was fantastic. So I'm with you, but
It puts you in the moment. I think is like that, just awareness and like really live in the present moment. Because a lot of people like to stray away from fasting, like, oh, like I have to eat. Like you don't have to eat. Like you choose to eat. And so I think what happens is the body is so used to eating right in the morning you wake up, at lunchtime, at dinner time. And so what happens when you're fasting, and I'm sure you felt it, is at those times, your body actually felt hungry. Like you felt like, oh, well, it's time to eat, because you have programmed your body to know, like, okay, at these times, this is where I'm eating. And so if you ride that wave, I'm sure you experienced that. If you ride that wave, it's going to die down, and you're going to be fine. It's so amazing.
yeah, yeah, it truly is a feeling, and there can be physical sensation associated, but it does pass. Like you,
Yes.
and I think that's so. I mean, that's like anything though in life. Just like you said, even the challenging portion of the fast passes, and then you get to this really hyper aware and intuition kind of connected feeling, and that passes too. So it's just this kind of ability to let things go that I think for me is really I mean, challenging, but I think has been a huge benefit, because it makes me look at my business differently, my marriage differently, my friendships, like everything. Cause it's like, you gotta allow things to come in and then fade away, and nothing is kind of gonna stick around forever. And that this experience is just, I guess, solidified that. I already kind of knew that in a way, but this kind of really
Yeah.
told me, whoa, like, okay, within an hour I can be here, and then I can feel down here, and it's like my whole world's gonna change. So man,
Love it. No, seriously, it's an awesome experience. Love it.
really special. But I would love to hear more about you in terms of, because I know you're a chiropractor, and so I would love to hear more on that side, because I know, fasting is not the core gig. But so I'd love to hear a little bit more about your unique approach to being a
Yeah.
chiropractor, because I love your whole philosophy, the way you share online. You're such a forward thinker. I think you're very intuitive, but you also bring this amazing honesty to your work. Like it's so authentic that I gravitated toward you instantly. So I'd love to hear more just about your philosophy and what brought you to chiropractic medicine to begin with.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it. Um, so I guess more so starting, I guess it kind of starts as a kid. So you're from Canada, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm not sure you're familiar with like US and like stats and stuff like that, but I'm from one of the states that is probably the most unhealthiest state in America. We have the highest obesity rate in America, Mississippi. So it's in the South. So we have great food here and great unhealthy food. I don't currently live in Mississippi anymore, but that's like the thing that you hear about the South. It's like they have great food there. It's greasy and like it's yeah.
Oh,
It's
Louisiana. I've been to New Orleans, and that is,
oh okay.
some crawfish etouffee is like, oh my God. I had an amazing time. So yes.
Yeah. So
Fantastic.
Mississippi and Louisiana are typically like battling for that number one spot in obesity, right? And obviously, if you have obesity, then we have other chronic diseases like diabetes, have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, all these cancer, right? You see all these things skyrocket around that, right? And it's not by coincidence. And so I grew up in this household, this model, and I've started to see these trends that was happening in my families and the families that was around me, and also in my community. And I'm like, huh? Like I'm like, man, like something's not right here. Like seriously, something's not right here. I'm like, man, it has to be a different way. because I was told that when I became an adult, I would have diabetes, I would have high blood pressure, I would have cancer because their parents had my grandparents, my great grandparents had these elements, and then my grandparents had them, and also my parents have them, and so we get into this thing where we're like, okay, this must be a genetic thing, and we say it all the time. This must be a genetic thing, and I think it's like a cop out. I would say is it's genetics. That means that there's nothing that I can do. I'm powerless to this thing is going to take over me, right? And I think if you start with that mindset, then yes, you're going to end up in that same situation as your past family. And I just didn't want to do that because I saw that there was a cycle that was happening. And eventually I was able to see that it wasn't a genetic thing. It was more so what was being passed down was the bad habits, behaviors, all these different aspects was being passed down from generation after generation. But the thing is, if there's no one that's going to question and disrupt that cycle, then the cycle continues, right? And so if the cycle continues, then there's no change. And like, so for me, I am the disruptor of my cycle. And so I've decided to change it for my family. So moving forward, for my kids and for their kids, it's going to be a different story.
Oh,
Right.
I love that generationally, yeah. And
Yeah.
all of your clients, right? And your whole community. Like
Yeah.
it's something to thousands of people around the world. So it's like you're taking
Yeah.
it to the next level, I think.
100%. And I think that was kind of like what got me going into chiropractic, because what happened is I was in this model of like, okay, this is all I know, but I didn't know anything else outside of that. I didn't know what the other side looked like. I didn't know what another model looked like. I didn't know what holistic looked like. And so I was just open enough to be like, okay, let me venture out. Like, let me open up this door to see what's behind it. Right. I wasn't scared of the unknown. Like I'm actually attracted to the unknown. Like I love the unknown.
I'm gonna learn. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with Sadhguru, and that's pretty much his
Yeah.
premise. Like he's a mystic and he talks about principally that. He's like,
Yeah.
the moment that you think you know, you've lost all curiosity pretty much, and then you can't learn from that, right? If you know definitively anything, you stop questioning. So I
Yes.
love that because curiosity is like the number one thing, I think.
Yes. I know. I love it. And you think about what kids, right? They learn so much and so fast because they're so curious, but because they're so open. And again, when we stop being curious, we stop learning. I think we stop learning, we stop growing, we become stagnant, we become like this swamp essentially, opposed to this just river that's always changing, always changing. It's never the same river. But I've taken that approach, and that's what landed me into chiropractic, because chiropractic is simply, it works with the body's innate ability to heal itself. That's it. Is nothing more, is nothing less. So I like to my best way to explain the chiropractic is so like I have, like in the back of our house right now we have 3 bird nests actually. Like it's crazy. But I always have these questions like, man, like I wonder how the bird knows how to make a nest.
Yeah.
Have you ever asked that question before? I wondered.
I've seen them making them, but I don't
Yeah.
know how. I mean, I guess I just chalked it up to being instinctual. I'm like, it's like birds make nests, so they're
Yeah.
just born with it. They're like born with it.
Exactly. And that's exactly what's going on. It's instinctual. It's just an innate ability that they have, and they're just with nature. It's like, this is what we do, right? And so with that being said, I also propose the same question to my patients. I'm like, hey, if you said this bird is instinctual to make its nest, how does your body heal? How do you know to heal? Like if I cut you right now, if you cut yourself, how does your body know to clot that up, put scalp over it, and eventually a while the scalp's gonna go away and you're just gonna look like your skin again. It's no different.
It's like a miracle. It sounds so simple, but it is, the body is miraculous at what it's able to do.
Yeah. And it's no different. So it's instinctual, right? The body was designed to be healthy, designed to heal. And so I let them know, like, hey, how does your body does this? How does your body do this? What it does is it utilizes your nervous system, which is your brain and your spinal cord. right? Because I'm like, hey, can we agree that the brain spinal cord controls everything in the body? That's our communication system. Most people are like, yes, of course, right? So if we can agree that, then we can agree that the spine protects your nervous system, right? Your spinal cord. So if we have a problem with our spine, then that can interfere with the way the brain communicates to the rest of the body and the way the body communicates to the rest of the brain, right? And so if we have interruption in that communication, then we just said that the body heals itself through the nervous system. So if the brain isn't able to send the signal down to the body and the body isn't able to send it back, then we can have interruption in the way we heal, the way we function, the way we adapt to life, right? So my job as a chiropractor is to find the misalignments and to essentially bring ease and bring the body back into more of a harmonious state to allow that communication to happen. Because what I know is that the body is instinctual to heal itself and to function and to adapt. So it's going to do that, right? That's simply what I do is just introduce this force and allow the body to take that force in. And then eventually the body starts to function and start to heal better and actually starts to adapt better. And that's chiropractic in a nutshell.
That's a beautiful explanation. I've seen chiropractors after, so I had a car accident. I sustained a traumatic brain injury. And so I was at a chiropractor for a while. I did craniosacral as well, where he was like with the root. And I was like, okay, what, try it, like, whatever you want to do, let's do it. And so but I've never heard of it that way. And that makes so much sense. It's like you're turning the communication channels back on in a sense, right? Like you're making sure that those signals are going as effectively as possible so that the body can do its own work, its instinctual work. Like that's such a beautiful explanation. I mean, so what would you say to the naysayers? Because I know there's the one main argument, like you're cracking people's backs. Like this is not, what do you say to that? Because I've had great success with a chiropractor in Canada. Actually, he was brilliant. He's focused on athletic stuff, but also brain injuries. And he's absolutely brilliant. And he really does use a holistic approach, like vitamins. He had me on oxygen, like altitude training. I did craniosacral therapy and the traditional kind of like manipulation. I don't know.
Adjustment. Yeah.
Adjustment. Yeah. But so I think people sometimes think chiropractor and they just think adjustment. And then they kind of go, well, that's not good. That's not good. Or there's this like criticism of it. So what do you say to that?
Yeah, so I get that all the time, obviously, because chiropractic is I like to look at like this, like, just say like the general medical field, right? I like to look at that medical allopathic model as being like your mainstream music. You know how mainstream music you hear it everywhere. You hear it on TV, you hear it on the radio. It's mainstream, right? Mainstream artists, right? We all know the mainstream artists. But what about the underground artists, right? There are some great underground artists, right, that you don't hear a lot about, but they're out there, right? And so I look at these different models as being holistic and being allopathic as one's mainstream, one's just underground, right? So that's the difference. That's the way I look at it. And so with that being said, I know people are coming from this mainstream mindset when they step into the office. So when I introduce this philosophy, this way of being, this way of chiropractic, like it's all new to them, right? Some accept it, and some are like, oh, that makes sense. And it's like, and then some don't for whatever reason, right? And I have a few reasons, I think, but I think more so of I expect them to come in with this mindset, so I just make sure I just ask questions and just see where they are, right? First, you have to meet people where they are, because it's not like I'm way over here and they're way over there, and I'm like screaming at them like, hey, like, come over here. Like, no, like, I'm gonna come to you, and then I'm gonna bring you to where I am, and we're gonna continue to go on this journey, right? That's the best way I can describe that, is just finding people and noticing where they are, so you can be able to meet them in that space, and create a safe space for them. And it's no judgment at all, because like I've been in that model, so it's easy for me. Like I know where you are, and I know where I am, and I know the journey and what it takes to get there. And so I ask those questions for them to answer, like for themselves. Like I ask the question, like, hey, do you think your body heals itself? And I don't answer. I let them answer the question, because they have to answer it. They have to acknowledge that the body heals itself. They have to acknowledge that the body heals itself through the nervous system, it has to acknowledge that the spine protects the nervous system. It has to acknowledge that we have a problem wrong in our spine. It could potentially interfere with our communication, the way the body heals itself. And they have to acknowledge that if it interferes with that, it can interfere with our health, the way we heal, right? We can have symptoms, right? And they have to acknowledge that, okay, if we correct what's going on with the spine, then we can help the body communicate better, which means that we can heal better, function better, and we can feel better too. So I ask those questions to them so they can answer it.
I love that.
Yeah.
How do you make sure, you said, you create a safe space. How do you make sure that you protect your own energy? Because I know for myself I'm doing leadership development and career coaching, right? So I'm helping people switch their jobs or develop as leaders and, a lot of CEOs and stuff. And so it's really, I think part of all I do is ask questions all day. But so how do you keep yourself from not taking on that energy or kind of falling back into that pattern or going back there? Like how, because especially if you're around that all day or if you're physically touching them, like there's just kind of this whole energy going on. Like if you're around people that have a certain mind state all day, it's kind of easy to get sucked back in. So how do you make sure that you stay kind of in that new alignment, in your kind of knowing of what you've learned so far and not regress back?
So I think I'm glad you asked that question because I actually never answered this question before, like out loud, I guess. So what comes down to me is that, so chiropractic has these principles, right? You can call them chiropractic principles, but I just look at it as just a universal principles, right? There's certain things that happen universally that just happens, and it's a knowing there. And so I'm heavily like ingrained and dedicated to these principles. It's not that I'm dedicated to chiropractic, it's more so like the principles and the philosophy behind it. And I'm so ingrained in that like I've allowed that to essentially like I've intertwined that into like my life, right? It's not just in the office, but it's like at home, it's outside. It's when I interact with people outside in the community. It's everywhere. Like this is a lifestyle that's just it's a lifestyle, right? It's just a part of my being. And so it's ingrained in that. So it's very, very hard to interrupt that. And the reason I say is because through all of this whole, you can call it pandemic, whatever, throughout this whole thing, I was literally, there was no change. I'm like, hey, like what's the fuss about, right? And like kept my composure, was poised about it, and just like, hey guys, the body heals itself. I've been telling you this. I tell you this from day one. Like the body heals itself. Just make sure we're doing the things we need to be doing to make sure the body can function like it should. And it's as simple as that. Like this isn't the first virus, isn't the last virus that's going to be. And so because I had a patient ask me like, Dr. Ray, like, how are you so calm? Like, why are you not freaking out? I'm like, the body heals itself. It's been doing this for years. If it wasn't as adaptable and resilient, then we wouldn't be here having this conversation. Right. So I'm just really grounded in that. And so I continue to educate my patients, like literally every single day, like every person on the table, I'm always dropping a nugget to them. And so I'm not allowing their belief system or anything like that to kind of come over to me. It's more so I am the one that's educating them, because as a doctor, like it literally just means to educate. It means to pour into, essentially, and to also withdraw out. And so I take that to heart, and I'm like, okay, if you guys are here, then I'm going to educate you. Like I look at this thing like a university. And so you're not paying for my adjustments. You're actually paying for this education that I'm giving you, because I know this education is going to change your life and change your perspective and change your paradigm. And when that's going to change, they're going to change your family paradigm, the way you do things. And then we can change families, we can change communities, and we can change communities, we can change cities, we can change cities, we can change states, states into countries, countries into the world, right? So I'm here to impact the world. And that's how.
Oh, I love that you're just so clear on what it is that you're up to and you're focused on. And you, like you said, you maintain that energy no matter what sort of external pressure is kind of coming in on you to say, well, hey, no, there's this, there's that. I mean, It's interesting though, right? Because you mentioned, we talk on one side about curiosity. So we're like, okay, we need to stay curious. We need to stay, and then you're talking about these grounded truths. So how do you take new information and bring it into those truths? Like, what if you find information that doesn't fit in? Because I've been having a hard time. Like, I agree with you. Like, I believe the body can heal itself. I think that it's probably very challenging if it's something like a chronic illness. I mean, I have friends and parents who have had cancer, who have died from cancer. And you look at that and you go, okay, is that like too far gone? Is the body gonna, can the body heal itself once it's in that condition? So I guess I'm kind of just looking at it and going, okay, how do you deal with science telling you one thing and then those universal kind of basic truths maybe saying something else, right? Where it's like the body can heal itself, but a traditional doctor would tell me to go and get whatever, right? So how do because I love how you partner with your patients. I love that it's sort of this, we're going to walk this journey together. I think that's important. Very few doctors have done that with me, and I've seen many have explored all sorts of different interventions.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. But I guess I'm just curious how to toe the line there with science and research and new things coming down the pipeline. How do you do that? Because I swirl around in that one. I feel very clear on myself, but then it's like, okay, what if science finds something new? How do I bring it into my belief system? How do I bring it in? And I don't know, kind of.
Gotcha. I think I have a totally different, a different perspective on like science and research. Definitely is good. Huh? Yeah, so definitely it's good, right, to have science and have research. But I think the way that my mind works, I'm not that person. Like some people is like, oh, I need the science, I need the research, I need the numbers, like give it to me, right? But if you look at it, like when I'm looking at chiropractic has only been around for about, I think, since 1895, right? Still fairly new. Mm-hmm. And I think I like to say, I forgot who said it. It may have been like Dr. Brad Campbell, and he said that science is slow. Right? So essentially, the things that's happening, things that we're doing, if chiropractic would have waited for science to catch up, we wouldn't have made the leaps and bounds what we've made so far to wait like, okay, let me just wait for science to catch up because I think I'm on to something, but I'm not really sure. But if we're getting these results, and let me just wait for science to catch up, right? Opposed to like, let me continue doing what I've been doing. Science will catch up one day, but I'm gonna continue to head in this direction because we know science is slow, right? If we're really creative in what we're doing, like there's things that are getting results, but maybe they don't have the big like research behind it. You know what I mean? So that's my approach, and it's talking about like science is slow and trying to catch up with some of these things that humanity is doing and has done essentially with that.
I mean, you're totally spot on, especially when you look at even religious texts actually that have, I mean, back to the first topic, right? They even talk about fasting in the Bible and the Quran. Like you've got fasting everywhere written texts where it's like, but now intermittent fasting is cool. And so people, it needs to be popularized by influencers or celebrities, and then gets studied and whatever. So I agree with you. I guess I want to go deeper into the question of how do you remain curious about the body then? If how do you maybe the scientific process throughout your work, or even just like experiments is what I guess I'm thinking. So like, let's say you've always healed a certain gout or whatever. You've always healed like a certain thing a certain way. You're like, okay, this works. I know this works. How do you assimilate new information into that where you're like, oh, maybe a fast would help this person, even though I've never tried it for doubt or what, like, I don't know, just whatever. You know what I mean? So how do you keep innovating, I guess, in your practice?
Yeah, so that's actually that's my practice, my life. So a lot of time when I'm speaking or when I'm talking to someone, I'm like, they ask me my opinion. A lot of time I would say, right now in this moment, as you're asking this question, this is what I see. This is where I am. Because what I know is that if I want to continue to grow and evolve and change, like I have to be open, right? I have to be able to receive new information and integrate in a way that's like, okay, I can integrate this with this and with this, and okay, that makes a little bit more sense there. Or I may need to shed this because this is no longer serves me, right? Because what I'm aiming towards is over here. But if I'm holding on to this thing right here that's no longer serving me, then how can I get to that place, right? So I think you have to come from a standpoint of, okay, I am open to new information, and right now, and this information I'm giving you could change 5 years from now or 10 years from now when you ask this same question. And so I'm not attached to that, you know. There's no attachment there, and because I'm letting you know, like, it could change. I could come into contact with some more information. I can integrate this information into what I have and come up with this new ideal, this new philosophy that will serve the future me. So I think it's more so just like unattaching from it, you know?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I mean, that sounds like another one, maybe a basic kind of principle. Like everything is just, it's back to that river analogy you made, actually, which like, I know stuff is changing, so I'm just learning and growing alongside with you. You've already said that, but
yeah,
that's where I think sometimes with science and these studies, I get really hung up where I'm going, man, like they're so set on this one answer that like any evidence to the contrary is just not okay. And it's like, that's tough, right? Like it's tough when you're not willing to see. I think, yeah, shutting down, like you said, it's a swamp, and that's it's not a good spot to be for your body, for your mind. Like, oh, it's not good. I don't like that feeling. I don't like it, but I'm fine, man. It's like, I find that my views on, I think this past year has really divided me from friends, from acquaintances. Just like, I feel like people have become, that's one of the probably, I don't know if we've got a solution to this in the next few minutes, but how do we bring people back together? Because I think that's what's so hard for me is like, if you think even 2 years ago, nobody ever asked me if I had a flu shot or what I thought about, I don't know, antibiotics, or if I drank, like if I chose to not drink coffee or not drink alcohol. It's like, okay, like you drink coffee, I don't drink coffee, like cool. Like we were cool with people kind of being different, and we actually celebrated that. And I love the differences in cultures, and like you look at different states or different, like I think that's where we can learn from each other. I think that's an opportunity. So I look at it now, and it's like everybody's supposed to fit in this little box and think a certain way and be a certain way. How do we bring people back to appreciating people's differences and kind of loving each other for just who they are? How do we I don't know if that's too big of
a big question.
That's what I'm sitting with every day, man. I'm sitting here going like, I feel like we've gone in this direction where everything you say is wrong or canceled or criticized or not, you're not allowed to think different. And then I don't know.
So what's happening is so we talk about sovereignty, we talk about mind body sovereignty, right? And I think what's happening is that a lot of people have lost their sovereignty, lost that free will, that being creative and thinking and having discernment and in their own body, right? And relying on their own experiences, not just relying on what this person on this TV told me or what this influencer told me, but taking that information and applying that to the knowledge that they have and based on their experiences, and to come up with this information and this ideal. So when we put ourselves in these different camps, right, where it's talking about like oh, I'm with this political or this religion, or I'm with the mask, I'm with the vaccines, I'm not with the vaccines. I'm like, nothing is binary, right? So we're dynamic. It goes back again to the river. Like we are the river. We're always changing. We can't put ourselves in a box. It doesn't happen that way. And I think I did a post on this before talking about the sovereignty, is that when you identify with this thing, right, and nothing, like, and someone brings something to you and it's like, oh, I can't accept it. I don't believe in that, right? It's okay not to believe in it. But what I think is that we are like, literally, we're so attached to our thing, our group, our whatever it is, right? Is that in that attachment comes the loss of your mind sovereignty. And when we lose the mind sovereignty of thinking for ourselves, obviously the body's going to follow, right? Because the mind tells the body what to do. And so it's a mind game, right? So it's more so of how can we regain the mind sovereignty and start thinking for ourselves, right? And having discernment and knowing that everyone is different, everyone has different beliefs. And just like, again, it's okay, right? It's okay that you don't believe the same thing I believe, but that's the beauty of humanity. I think is that humanity wouldn't be where it is if it wasn't for diversity, right? And because everyone has different experiences, different beliefs, right? Different creativities. And think about it, if everyone was on this same plane, we would never be where we are in humanity as like the things we have achieved because everyone would be thinking the same. Like they'll be bored as hell.
Yeah. Well, conversations like this wouldn't need to happen. You know what I mean? It would just be, well, we're the same. I know everything you know. And we're like, we all believe the same shit. So why are we even talking? I mean, really, like, and I love how you mentioned kind of the sovereignty of the mind, because it does translate into this idea of free speech, which is talked about heavily, and then it comes into your body. Like it just starts to take over, I think, our entire lives. And so it's really cool to know that it's about our mindset, it's about how we're thinking, and then our actions translate, our body listens, and we do have actually control over that one thing.
Yeah,
right?
we
Like,
do. We do. And I think what's happening is that, and honestly, I think like media, like people know it, and that's why they put it out there. Is that let's play on the fear, because people like, I mean, people know that we have these different brains and different things that we can activate, and we have this we say reptilian, or we have this like ancestral brain where it's talking about like just survival mode, right? It's like it's you or me essentially. And so when we're blasted with the how many deaths was to like happen today, or like just blasted with this just negativity and this bad energy every single day, is going to create a bunch of fearful people. And when you're fearful, you can't use the prefrontal cortex of your mind. You can't actually think, like you can't have discernment, because you can't be in both places at the same time. Because if you're in survival mode, it's about survival, right? That's all it matters about, is fight or flight. That's it, right? You can't think through that and make decisions for yourself. So when I say people aren't making their own decisions, they're not making their own decisions. Other people are making their decisions, and their body just following it. Yeah.
So how do we, I guess that's the final, I could probably ask you 1,000 more, but so how do we get out of, I think this one's actually really valuable.
Yeah.
We get out of that fight or flight and back into the prefrontal. Like, how do we tell the fight, that reptilian brain, like, listen, we're good. Like, look around the room, like everything's okay. Like, just chill. I mean, I know there's stuff with the vagus nerve that can be useful, but so what would you say about is like the best thing that we can do if we find ourselves for whatever reason being in that kind of response, like, oh, what's, I don't know what's going to happen. Is it going to, this kind of like rumination? How do we hijack our reptilian brain and move back into the prefrontal cortex?
It's funny you asked that. Actually, I'm about to launch a program on this.
Oh my
God. Just because I know a lot of people are in this state, and the way I found is just it's through mindfulness, but being more mindful, right? Knowing, okay, is this thing what I'm experiencing, is it life or death? Because what we know is that the brain doesn't know the difference between what's happening in real life opposed to what we're imagining. So if we can,
I think, oh my God, like we need to just like, that needs to be repeated 1,000 times. Our brain doesn't know what's happening in real life versus what we're imagining. Our brain perceives it as a fact.
Same thing. Yep. Same exact thing.
Oh, you need to like I need that as a poster. Okay.
Yeah. And that's what happened is we have to be able to really step back and like look at the situation for what it is. And like, is this life or death? If it's not, then okay, then we don't have to be fearful, right? We don't have to be scared. So now we can actually think and it's more so bringing light, bringing awareness to any situation that we come in contact with, right? It's like, if I'm talking to you, if I'm on this podcast interview, like this is what I'm worried about. I'm worried about this right now. Like I'm not worried about anything else. And it comes down to just being in the moment and being present. And I think the more that we can be just more present in what we do, because we're so inundated with so many damn things, more we can be just present in that, then we can really enjoy it and take it in and like live life, right? Because life is about living, and to live is to live in the now, because nothing else really, nothing else exists but the now. Like this is all that exists right now. Like this is it. And then after this, I'm gonna close this and I'm gonna go to my son's appointment, and that's what's going to exist. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's more so like, can just live right now in the moment. Let's not worry about the past. Let's not worry about what could happen, or like we're hearing all different things like what could happen, but what's happening right now. And let's be real with yourself. Is this life or death? Or if it's not? If it is, then you can go into fight or flight. If it's not, if it's like a what if, like in the future, because it's all this thing is like, it's the future. Like, what if I caught this? What if I don't get this vaccine? Like, we're creating these things in our mind in these scenarios. What if it doesn't happen? Right? So it's like, let's flip it. Like, what if I don't think about this? Or essentially, you can be aware of it, but don't like create these scenarios in your mind that you're creating this fearful future paths for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good.
No, I love that. I think really, I mean, back to this fast, but it's slowed me right down. And I think that's what we need. Like, we're all just racing a mile a minute to try to figure stuff out, or think like everything is a mile a minute. And the moment you get out in nature, the moment you slow down, the moment you fast, for sure will slow you down. But anything that kind of brings you back to yourself, because like you said, you're here with me now, but you could be, you could get a notification of your email, you could have a phone ringing, whatever, but you've kind of silenced the noise and brought yourself in the room. And I think with technology, sometimes it's hard because there are like 30 different directions. So our minds are that way too. Like our minds are also in 30 different directions because we're used to all these things inundating us. So I love what you just said. It's like, where are you right now? Like, where are you actually, sitting?
Yeah. And I forgot what Doc says, but he pretty much said that we're not like, we're multitaskers, but we're not multi-focusers. Right? Because we try to multitask all these different things. Like, yeah, I'm great at multitasking, but you're really not. Like, focusing wise, your brain does one thing at a time. That's what we can do. And that's exactly how I try my best to live life. It's like, okay, if I'm doing this thing right now, this is what I'm doing. Because I've just seen in nature where we talk about the birds, talk about my babies, my kids, like when they're doing something, like they're doing it and they're not worried about anything else in the world. Like seriously, like I pay attention to that because I think it's a piece that we're missing. I really do.
I love that. We have to learn from our kids and from our like animals, nature, from nature, from people from things that are still instinctual, from what you told me before about the bird's nest, right? People that are operating on an instinctual level, because we are not above nature. Like, we're human beings. We are nature. Like, we are in nature. We're not separate, My dog is the same way. My God, if I could, he is so happy to see me, no matter what time of day, no matter what time. It's like, I gotta be more like Max. I gotta be more like my dog, I admire the hell out of him.
Yeah, and that's what's happening again. I think we are losing that that we're above everything, right? Above life, I guess. I think we have this mindset, and we're really not. We're just a part of nature, and I think we're just so far removed from it. Is that we're seeing the results of being removed from nature, and I think the sooner we can get back to nature and what that means, and living in harmony with this place that we reside in for now in this moment, then I think then we have a different result. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. I love that. Well, I'm gonna get into nature now myself, but you mentioned a course, so we'll link to it. Is there anything else you want to share about the course? And then you do have, for people that are listening, they can't see your amazing t-shirt, but I know you have a really meaningful clothing line as well. So is there anything you want people to know about? I mean, we'll link to everything in the show notes.
Yeah.
So check it out.
I can see that. So yes, I love shirts. I think they're amazing to like start conversations, and I try to put things on a shirt that's it's like empowering, it's educating. Like that's me. So I try to come from that place of education and empowerment and starting conversation with people. And like, just if someone reads a shirt that says "You heal you," they're like, huh, that creates curiosity. And we just talked about curiosity and how it creates someone to be open, right? And so if we can just create curiosity in whatever manner, I would just want to do it through a shirt, right? And it happens. But yeah, so I do have that. And then the program it's called like, it's pretty much bringing people from red line to this like stressful, crazy state, right? Back into renewal. And so getting people out of this stressful state and just bringing them back to their baseline where they are, and just helping them just find their inner peace, and not allowing the external world to dictate how they show up, right? Because we can control us, right? Our inner thing, our inner power, or whatever you want to call it, we can control it. But what happens is most of the time we allow people, we allow social media, we allow different things to interrupt that. I think it was a quote by Eckhart Tolle, I believe, how he talked about the sea or a lake. It doesn't matter like the surface level, if it's it could be rough, right? It can be calm at the surface. Doesn't matter. Like always at the bottom is going to be stillness, right? It's going to be uninterrupted, right? And so it's the same way looking at us. Like we have that uninterruptedness in us, that inner peace, that inner happiness, and we just most of the time we just allow other things to interrupt it. That's all.
I mean, you make it sound really simple, but I know a lot of people that could benefit from inner peace. That's a really so when does that come out? I mean, we'll get this podcast out shortly. It'll probably be next.
So
when can people check that out? We'll hopefully release it at the same time so we can.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be launch in the next week. So yeah.
Oh, perfect timing. We all, like I said, I think I need that. I think we all could more inner peace and ability to maintain that stillness with chaos at the top, like you said. So
yeah.
I just want to thank you so much for your time. I think you're brilliant and you're doing amazing things both in your family and community. And that's, to me, what leadership is all about, through your daily actions, through what you choose to do right now. And I think you're an absolute 100% embodiment of that. So thank you so much for your time and joining us and continuing to share online. And yeah, we'll link to your stuff in the notes so people can check you out wherever is convenient. And I hope we get to connect again soon.
Awesome. No, thank you. I really appreciate it. Definitely love the conversation. Love the flow of it. Love the connection. Sending love, peace, everything to Canada. All right. So thank you.
All right. See you.
All right. Bye.